Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'd like to share with you this little toy that I've made. It's an AK47. If you play video games, Battlefield, Call of Duty, you probably came across that. If you fancy one for yourself, it's pretty easy to make. Detachable magazine, it's got a bayonet, action trigger and a little pulley. If you want to make one for your kid perhaps, or you're just bored, I'll show you how it's done. Stay tuned. Right guys, before we go ahead, this is a disclaimer. I'm not going to be held responsible if you're going to injure yourself or others whilst performing any of these tricks or using the tools. Right, let's move on. First things first, I've got a drill with a 10mm drill bit, which I use to drill through the 9mm plywood. I've got a set of bits and bobs, obviously a screwdriver, Stanley knife, anything that you might need later. You'd also be using a 8mm wood bit, drill bit, for the magnets. And magnets are 8mm and 3mm thickness. To hold the magnets in place, I use the normal nails. It's pretty good stuff. Obviously the rest is, I use a jigsaw. If you don't have that, you can use a hacksaw or a fret saw. Takes a little bit longer, but also does the job. I've got a set of files, straight, round and mini files for finishing touches. Set of screws. These are 3.5 by 20mm. You'd need to sink the cap into the wood once you're done. So obviously pencil, rubber, ruler. I've also got some roll pins. This is just a finishing touch, but if you want, you can drill a hole into the barrel at the front and it will be placed in there for extra effect. If you're gonna paint your toy, I've used a dark oak. Personally, I would use something more darker because it didn't stain that much. I suppose plywood doesn't stain as much. I've also used a deep copper spray paint. One of these lasted me for the whole gun, which is pretty good, and masking tape. And just your bits and bobs along the way. Also, you'd need some springs. I've got a box of springs, and you'd need one or two just in case you want all the bits and bobs to work. And another thing I'd like to say, I'm not a carpenter, not a DIYer. This is pretty much my first project and it turned out okay on my first try. Let's go. Right guys, so step number one, you grab yourself a cardboard. It doesn't have to be too thick. You've got yourself a pencil, your ruler and a razor, and you just draw a template. It doesn't have to be too detailed, as long as it resembles it. What you do next is grab yourself a Stanley knife or something sharp tool for cutting wood, or scissors, and you cut the shape out. Mine's already done to save some time, just like so. After which, you keep this for later, for your magazine and your bayonet. Once you've got yourself a template, grab yourself some plywood. I'm using 9mm. Place your template right here. Draw around it. And we're on to the next step. Step 2. Once you cut out your template, this becomes your number one template. In total, you would need 3 templates to complete this. Once this is done, you take a drill and you drill the holes. I use 10mm drill bit. In order for your fret saw or jigsaw to go through, you need to cut out all these holes right here, and also where the trigger goes. Once you're happy with your template, all the holes are drilled, it's looking decent, all you have to do is make 2 more based on this. So always use this one. Get yourself a plywood, draw all around it, cut it out. Then grab this one again, your copy, master copy, and do the same thing. So 2 more. In total you have to get 3, and we are moving on. So now guys, we're on to stage 3. At this point what you should have is 3 of these. Roughly same size, pretty much like that. So I've already got mine, I've just disassembled it so I can show you. I'll just put it on the side. Right, so this is the middle one, M for middle. This is going to be your right hand side one, so R. And this is the left hand side one, L. So main differences between all these is obviously the magazine that goes for all of them. Only the middle one has it cut out. The rest are cut halfway, roughly, both left and right. This is cut out. The trigger bit, only the middle one has the cut out. The rest stay the same. Left and right stay whole. The trigger guard, both left and right are cut out. You can only have it on the middle one. Just looks better. Now, the sights. So the left and the right has it cut off. Only the middle one has the sight. Looks good, in my opinion. Right, so what you do next for the magazine. I'll just put 2 of these aside. What you do, take a template, mark it as middle, is the most important one. Don't mess it up. And roughly draw a hole where the pulley is going to be going. In my case it's quite easy, I've already done it, so roughly it'll go here. So to make it easier, drill a hole here and drill a hole here, 10 mil, and cut it out with a fret saw or jigsaw. Next bit, the magazine, roughly the same. This will go, and the trigger bit will be right here. That's how it looks. So you cut this bit out completely, cut this bit out completely, and the trigger bit. And for this piece, it's pretty much done. Right, here's the close-up of the middle bit. That's where the cutout for the trigger goes, and that's the magazine bit. So for your pulley, also you cut this out. The way I've done it is I took a bolt, I've bolted it right there, and I've bolted it here. If you can see a spring, and it's attached to the pulley. Pulley can be pretty much anything you want. It's just angled, letter L basically. And for the trigger to kick back, you cut this little bit out and you insert the spring in there. So for the trigger mechanism to work, it can be on either side. So what you get is a little nail and a little trigger, any shape you want, to be honest. What you do is you drill a hole slightly bigger than the actual nail, so it's quite loose. You drive it into the wood and you cut the top bit off. You just sort of slot it on there and that's done. And once you're gonna assemble the three pieces together, this bit here will go into your right side, right here, because the cut is right here for the middle bit, so it's not going to be touching the middle bit. You have your little spring right here on the middle bit, and that's how it's going to work. And on to stage 4. So once you have everything sorted, you cut out the mag bit, the trigger bit, you cut off the trigger guards, the sights, the hole for the pulley, the actual hole inside the middle one for the pulley to go back and forth, the spring. It's time to assemble, and that's stage 4. So all you have to do, your middle one stays the same, you pop it on top of the left side one, just like so. Make sure everything's aligned. Little spring goes under the trigger, and that's how your mechanism works. You take the right side, pulley stays in, pop it on top. At this point, two of your sides will meet, left and right, where the little nail is going through, and holding the trigger is the trigger action. Make sure pulley works, nothing's jamming it. There we go. And now what I suggest you do is you drive some screws into the woodwork. Do not glue it together, it's just easier with screws. And in order to do that, the best place is to do it, if you do 2 right here, 1 right here, 1 right here, 1 right here, right here, right here, and right here. This way everything's going to be intact and it'll last longer. And if anything goes wrong, say your spring is out of action or something like that, you just take the screws out and you replace it. Pretty much like that. When you're going to be driving the screws in, just drill a little hole, say 2 to 3 millimeters, so the cap of the top of the screw goes inside the woodwork, so it's nice and flush. And that's kind of how you do it. Basically, this does look like a bayonet. Give it some work and that'll be that. In my case, it was pretty much the same, and that's how I done mine. For the mag, what you do, same thing. You take a piece of cardboard, do a mag the size that you want. Could be bigger, smaller, square shape, anything you want. The way I've done it is out of the 2 9mm plywood pieces. It's just easier that way, and it resembles a real size, more or less. Right. The way you're gonna keep this on is you're gonna glue your little magnets onto the bayonet, and you're gonna drill some holes, very small holes, in your magazine, and you're gonna glue the magnets in there. Same thing goes for the mag on the actual piece. You drill some holes in there for the magnets to align, and that way it stays put. Just the last quick thing. Remember I told you about the roll pins? What you do is you take a drill bit and you drill the center of the barrel. After which you just insert it in there and it kind of gives you better look, I suppose. But this bit here will shatter inside, so be very careful. You don't want to redo the whole thing again. And that is how you make an AK47. If you follow all the instructions correctly, hopefully you'll build it by now. And the last bit that's left is to paint it. Entirely up to you, the colors you're going to use, but I prefer to stain the wooden bits and so-called metal bits. I've painted in this color. That's kind of it. It can also be used for, say, movie props or anything like that. Pretty fun to make. Kills time as well. Well, if you've enjoyed all this, share, like, subscribe. I've got more ideas coming, so hopefully see you soon. Take it easy.